Alright, hello and welcome back to Dashing Swords and Painting. Today we're going to be painting up the Acolyte. This model is from One Page Rules, and I thought it represented the idea of an acolyte, sort of a young holy figure, cleric, really well. Since there isn't an official picture in the monster manual for the Acolyte, at least in the version that I have, just a stat block, I thought that gave us kind of total freedom. So we're going to be using a variety of colors to try and reflect what that's going to look like. So starting out, I'll start out with the deepest in parts, and I'm going to use a light brown to paint the skin. If you have a skin tone, feel free to use whatever shade of skin tone you like, as light or as dark as you want to go. And while you have that on your brush, go ahead and do the hands, feet, if they're wearing sandals, any other exposed areas. Looks like she's wearing gauntlets and boots, so it's really kind of just her face that's exposed there. Give it a good layer. Make sure your paint is appropriately thin, and if you need to give it a second layer, that's fine. Just make sure you're not obscuring the details too much. While that's drying, let's move on to our next layer. I think that's going to be her under kind of cloak right here. And then we can do the armor afterward. So this color is going to be everything. This cloth, this cloth. You know what? Let's go ahead and do this robe in the same color. Let's do those nice red. And this is actually kind of a magenta-y red. Looks like. If you're not too neat at this stage, that's okay. This also looks like it was kind of overly thinned when I first transferred it to the dropper bottle. I think this is Mephiston red from Citadel. That is really purple. It's kind of a cool color though. You're not too neat, that's okay. So we're starting with a color that we're going to paint over later anyway, on the things that surround it. And the metallics of an armor will certainly cover very well. Man, that's thin. Okay, this is going to take a couple of coats. All right, you know what? Let's change approach. That is going to take forever to dry if I have to do that on multiple coats. So I'm going to use a different red and relegate that one to the pile of paints that I only use through the airbrush because they're very thin. So grabbing a different red, this one seems to cover much more nicely. This is, I think, a heraldic red from Reaper Miniatures. Already come in a dropper bottle. Seems to have a good consistency. Reaper paints are what I started with when I was learning how to paint through one of their learning to paint kits, and they've served me pretty well. So give that a good coat. There we go. Yeah, I think that's looking a lot better. Sometimes using a thinner paint and doing multiple coats is fine. That was basically a wash, and it was going to take forever for all of those coats and layers to dry. It's not really what we're about on this series of get our miniatures done enough that they look pretty good on the tabletop for our players. All right. While that is drying, let's take a look and see what our next coat should be. I'm thinking let's do the brown on the boots so we can kind of get the underside there, and then we can clean up any mistakes or overages while we're there. Don't have to paint the underside or cloth or the inside of everything, but you never know what angle is going to pick up. So let's call that good. Make sure we give our brush a good wash. Dry it off on a paper towel. All right. Now let's pick up our brown. Make sure it's nice and thinned. And we'll get the boots. Here again, I'm working pretty quick. Not really worried about being that neat. Because I'm working in my primary color base coats. And I can always touch something up if I need to. A little bit hard to tell right there with the dirt where I based it with some of that sand and gravel, but that's okay. All right, let's do, what else do we want to be this dark brown? I'm thinking the leather part of her gauntlet. So I can see there where I missed a little bit on the inside of her sleeve. That's okay. All right. Messy stage. Okey-doke. Now we'll start making some decisions about what colors we want the other parts of the model to be. Some of the highlights, like her hair, that will be very noticeable because people naturally have their eyes drawn to the face, and then they'll also see the hair. I think, kind of against all of these warm light colors, I think black is going to look really good. Let's do her hair in black. Solid base coat. Being careful around what we've already painted. Her face and her hood. I'll try to get the majority of this paint on. I'm going to switch over to a smaller brush. Finer brush. And get a few more of those hair details. There we go. And down in that crevice. Remember, position your model to suit you. Treat your hands balanced and locked in against something. I also have my elbows resting on the table. There we go. Cool. Now, color for the handle. Before I'm thinking a neutral. Either red or do I want to do black? Keep going with the black. Here I'm bracing my painting handle against the table. Give myself some solidity. Okay. Let's do her book in yellow. Why not? Oh, that's not covering great. Okay. Oh, here's one where Reaper seems to have steered me a little bit straight, but that's okay. Yellow's a hard color to your right. This is also a paint bottle I think that I've had for a long time and might be a little bit separated. Maybe I didn't shake it up enough, but that's okay. All right. Man, that's bright yellow. All right. So let's move on to our armor, I think, in the metallics. I think if we get a good idea of what that looks like, iron breaker. Needs to get shaken up a little bit better. Maybe not. Maybe it's just an old separated bottle. All right, well, one of the dangers of working with older paints. We want to do that for the whole armor. So I'm going to get lead belcher instead. I know it works really well. This is why I work inside to out. You can see these details that are physically sitting on top of these deeper structures are getting hit by our brushwork. And I could be super careful if I wanted. That would take a lot longer. Or I can just not worry about it, paint them, and then go back and paint the other details later. Okay. Let's call that good for now. A little bit up there. Okay. All right. Some of that may need a second coat, and that's okay. So, switching back to our detail brush, looks like a lot of what we need to do are the belt details, pouches, and the accessories. That metal's still wet right up against that belt. I don't think I'm going to do that yet. But what I can do is the pages of the book. I'm going to mix some white and some light brown. Give myself just this off-white. All right, there we go. I'll do it for now. I'll probably hit that in a second. Later, let's give her armor or her cloth a second quick pass. I'll help us clean up any areas also that we overlapped any other colors. For the hood, I think to get in there, I'm going to need a tiny brush. Great. Hello, second coat. And, alright, let's start working on her hair. So for this, just some highlights, I want to make a series of gradients working up into gray. I'm going to get all the way to white, get to gray, cool. Alright, and what we're going to do, starting from one of these raised details, kind of work up along her hair. Pretty stark contrast, you might say. Well, you would be right. I don't know if I actually meant for it to be that stark. Now her hair just looks very gray. But that's okay. What we can always do is come back into the black wash later and fix that. Add a little bit more to that black so it's not quite as stark. And then I'm just going to do some stipply highlights. And that's more of what I was going for. That's more subtle. So, paint that. I'll do a lot of this right now. See how thin that is? This is working kind of like a glaze to tone down some of those highlights. You can still see the contrast of those highlights, but it's not as pronounced. Okay. Let's do the same thing with our red clothes. Taking mostly red, just a little bit of yellow in there. Hit these highlights. Too much moisture on your brush, you'll get coffee staining. So don't do that. I'm just hitting the raised, folded raise of the cloth. And this center section here. And I'm going for tabletop, not award. So just a little bit of texture here, I think will help just make it look a little bit more interesting. Okay. Let's do rope on our belt. I'm going to do this with dark brown. we're going to get these bags and pouches. Let's mix a little of the brown and the red for this pouch. Yeah. A little bit of a different tone. Cool. And while we're at it, let's lighten that up a little bit. Just add some scratchy highlights there. Okay. Let's do these new potion bottles in green. This is kind of a pale desaturated green. That's all right. Okay. And the other thing to do is a gold. Some of these other details, so like this bell. Do it on icons on those boots. It's not really showing up super well against the brown. See, detail armor, yeah. Shows up a lot better against that silver. Some of that is just this color that I've chosen. So let's do a silver for this one to show up against the yellow. Cool. And we'll do the same one for there. Show up against the brown. Get the gold for these details. That was a little really thin. Still too thin. It's a nice red for the bookmark. Cool. All right, that looks pretty good. Do a little touch of silver on these bottles. Just up the details there. Okay. Just like that. All right. Let's let everything dry. Make sure I have a good base coat on everything. And then we will come back and give it a wash. I'll also go over the ground with a brown. All right. Once that is dry, now we're going to go and apply a wash all over. You can make this as dark or as light as you want. I think for this model I'm going to stick to a warm toned wash. So I did some brown, kind of a mix of light brown and dark brown, and thinned down a whole bunch. If you have a wash in a bottle, like Agrax Earthshade or anything like that, that would also work great. So, starting from the top, I'm just going to work all over the model. As you can see, it's kind of staining everything, which is fine. You don't want it to be as stainy, just make it thinner. Or add flow improver if you're really feeling fancy. And that'll help it get into all of the nooks and crannies. Also going to get it all over the base. Texture. Another important thing is to avoid large pools, which will cause coffee staining. Here, I'm okay with everything being a little bit kind of covered and blended together and desaturated. So then we will let that dry. All right. Once that's dry, we can then go back to our colors and do what we want. I'm going to do a little bit of weathering just to make it look more interesting. I'm going to take a little piece of sponge, and because I'm working small, I'm going to hold it in a set of tweezers. And I'm going to try and bring a little bit of shine back to that armor. So what I'm doing is I'm getting some paint on the sponge, and then I'm just dabbing it off until almost no paint comes off. And I'll just touch it places that I want that chipping effect to look like. So it looks like got recently damaged, right? And there's that shiny metal showing through on those areas. On the edges, this, just like that. Cool. Get the paint off of there. Or actually, you know what I could do is just grab a neat piece of sponge. Top of the piece. And let's do the same thing on the robe. Let's get most of it off. Just add the tiniest bit of texture. There. You can also go the other way and use this to make like a mud spattery effect. I can take my brown and then along the bottom of the robe, along the hem, add some of that brown effect. Make it look kind of grungy. Alright. Cool. Call that good. Now, next detail. I use one of these artist pens. And I'm going to use this for some writing in the book. You can see this. It's a very fine tip pen. I'm going to do a little illumination at the beginning. Just like that. Cool. Now that looks like a little book. Alright. If we had done the eyes, this is also a great way to do pupils, but I'm going to do it with the eyes. And that does not look incredible. Nothing like feeling like you might have screwed up your model at the last minute. Oh. Just got very starey eyes. That's okay. All right. Let's get base rim on it. I'm just going to use black. All right. And I think we'll call that done. Oh, you know what I forgot to do? Is her little clasp. Right. Her cloak. There. Nice fancy gold. This gold is very glittery. All right, there we go. Cool. And we'll call her good. And there she is, the human acolyte, ready to preach peace, bring melee pain, or channel divine judgment on your unsuspecting party. clean, simple paint job, just the essentials, and pretty good practice at painting a human figure. If you liked this episode, subscribe for more monster and NPC painting guides. Put a comment below with your favorite enemy, and I just might paint it next. This is Dashing Swords and Painting, and good luck. Have fun painting.